Hi guys, welcome back to Clockwork Noodles, the channel where Becca continues to break down the anime of winter 2021. We are slowly making our way through what's turning out to be a very eventful season. I'm loving it. There's so much good stuff going on. It's continuing on this channel where we have our breakdowns going on weekly, but make sure you guys are subscribed because very shortly I'm going to bring out my top 3 anime of 2021. What is the top anime for me this season? And what animes do I plan to watch in spring 2021? So new season, new anime, and what 4 anime am I going to choose to release YouTube videos on? I have finally picked the anime I'm going to release. It took a while because there's so much good stuff and I had to make a decision on what I think would be fun, what I think would be good for you guys to see me give an opinion on or break down, or just anime I think I have knowledge on. A certain anime is definitely coming back to this channel because you guys loved it so much. There's also a video going up in 4 days now for my birthday special. I will be celebrating it with you guys by presenting to you a video I have worked upon. I think it's something fun, light-hearted, but it's something I really like and I hope I can share it with you. Last but not least, make sure if you are interested, you hop over to the Discord channel where you will get a notification whenever a video goes up. And you also kind of get updates whenever there are anime news in the world. So lately we've had a bit of anime news coming out with a lot of second seasons coming out that we never even thought we'd ever get. But that all goes down on the channel too. So make sure you hop over. Perfect for lurking. Let's continue with the anime that I really am enjoying this season. And that is Kemono Jihen. We are on episode 9. And we had a very, very good episode last week. This week's episode is great. It kind of built on something that I'd seen recently floating around on the social media. So I will talk about the social media when we get there because there's something for Kemono Jihen that I've seen floating around and I wasn't aware of. Let's continue because this is going really, really good and I'm really enjoying this. Catching up with the plot again. So we've just found Shiki's mum. She is in her coma, but we have just been introduced to Osana. So Osana is introduced to us as a veterinarian, which is very, very interesting because obviously veterinarians deal with animals and kimono are part of a spirit which sometimes is associated with an animal. So a lot of the folklore, things like kappas, things like tanuki and things like kitsune, they're all based on an animal that is present within Japan. So it's actually quite nice that they've made the link that to have a doctor for somebody who has got those parts in their makeup, the genetic makeup, a veterinarian would be a good person to go to. It does raise the question whether Osana understands the human side as well. First little chunk is us waiting for Shiki's mum to wake up. A little cute moment, I think it's tragic cute, that we see Kabane actually sleeping on the floor. Despite the fact there's plenty of beds to sleep on, he's just used to sleeping on the floor. It's probably a force of old habit. He's never really had a bed apart from his hammock, which he even says the hammock is too comfy. Really cute little tragic moment with Kabane, where we get to see Aya. We get to see what her life was like up until this point, how her experiences have made her who she is right now. We start with her actually saying that she doesn't feel like she has a right to open the door, despite the fact that it's also her mum on the other side. But she doesn't feel like she has a right because she's really scared that Shiki is simply going to hate her. The backstory for Aya is kind of what I imagined it would be. She is of Tadamaro's life's work. She is the result of his experiment, so she is treated as such. But she ends up leading a very sheltered life, which actually takes place underground, which is quite sad because even though she has the books, she says, I've got lots of books, she asked for it, she's not allowed to really experience the world that's around her. So she's able to read it, but she's only ever locked away. She hasn't got those memories of that childhood spent where she's able to have that relationship with her mum. And it's quite a little sad backstory. I'm glad that we actually got a little peek into what it's like. But we do also understand that she knew about Shiki and she would fantasize about having her mum wake up and her and them going off and starting a family. The 2 themes of this week's episode are definitely family and love. Well, love kind of going into family as well. So the idea of love in different forms does seem to be a big plot point for Kemono Jihen. It's all about love in different forms, having friends, having family, understanding love for yourself as well. So it's definitely a very good theme when it comes to Kemono Jihen, where the first chat between brother and sister also shows that developing feel of love, the idea of caring and feeling protective of someone. We actually see how inadequate that Shiki feels. So she is invited in because you have looked after her. He recognizes that Aya is the reason that he actually has a mum still. Shiki ends up showing the audience and her that he feels inadequate. He couldn't do anything because last week we saw that he asked no questions. He didn't ask any further questions to Tadamaru. An interesting peek into both of their characters, as we're getting one of our quiet moments in Kemono Jihen. We don't have too many quiet moments, but this is definitely our first happy moment where we're getting a family reunion. Finally, something has gone really, really nicely for one of our characters. Shiki ends up vanishing for about a week, and I was worried that he wouldn't come back, but at the same time, I figured he would when things would settle down. He basically spends a bit of time with his mum and his new sister, thinking over his options. He even says that I'm not making enough money. So he understands now that things have changed and he's got to change his priorities. I like that, showing our character developing, showing how mature the character really is. And he also accepts Aya. It's really nice to see that he basically accepts her. He doesn't actually feel negatively towards her, doesn't blame her for anything. As I predicted, he definitely does return when things do settle down in about a week, so it's not too long without Shiki. But it's long enough to understand that Kabane and Akira both miss him. And we get introduced to a little quirk of Kabane's that whenever he lies, he actually smiles. It reminds me of Shinra from Fire Force, where Shinra, whenever something bad happens, he smiles or he starts to laugh. And it's that nervous smile. So obviously he's made out to be a monster because he smiles at really bad situations. But that's just how that person deals with it. And it's very similar to our boy Kabane, who whenever he's telling a lie, he smiles, which gives away the fact that he's lying. I do like little tiny moments like this that allow us to develop a character in a certain way, learn little quirks, makes the character feel a bit more realistic, a bit more whole. And our boy Shiki returns, and he basically feels indebted to Kabane. He says that I'm not going to be leaving until Kabane too finds his parents. So for now, Shiki is back on our crew until we get to the bottom of the mystery of Kabane's parents, which I think is going to be a bit further along down the lines. I can't see it happening in 3 episodes. Well, we get a nice big 360 on Aya, where we have a new modern look. I've said a few times I really like the art style. I like the character designs. If you look at Aya's left leg, the trim on the leg is a spider web. Really like the little details like that. She too has a logo on her hoodie, which is the spiderweb feel. And obviously Shiki has the spiderweb logo on one of his sleeves. Really like the way they do this on this anime. I am still very close to getting myself a Kon hoodie because I really like Kon's design. Very big episode for Kon, but we'll discuss that when we get there. The 360 with Aya, where she turns into the proper like Imoto, the sister kind of thing. To be fair, she's not actually clingy with her brother, which is fun. So we actually get a bit of a sibling argument there, having that friendly kind of squabble whenever it happens. We are seeing her develop. She's finally free from Tadamaru, so she is able to develop as her own character now. This is how she wants to be. This is how she's decided she wants to dress. To find out that she is now working with Osana because she probably feels very grateful for Osana for helping her with her mum, waking her up. And her skills actually fit really, really nicely because she can heal people. It makes sense that she works in a hospital. She has found a place that her skills will be really appreciated and really useful. Now let's go into the waifu wars. The first challenger, Aya. Aya saw Kabane as that prince, the one who saves her, being brave. She essentially decides that Kabane is her new idol. She wants Kabane to be her boyfriend, comes right out, even says that she wants to marry him. Bear in mind, she is 8, so she doesn't probably fully grasp what she's saying. But I felt really bad for any Kon and Kabane fans out there. This is a bad episode for you guys, isn't it? Kabane just kind of accepts the position of boyfriend because he doesn't actually understand what that means. He kind of figures that going out just means going out and doing fun things, and there's no context behind it, no deeper meaning. This is when I also went, wait, if Kabane marries her, let's say they did down the line when everyone's a lot older, Shiki would basically be his brother, and I like that. I do like those two together as brothers from another mother kind of thing. I like the way these two interact. I think the bond between Shiki and Kabane is really, really nice. You know, I'm a huge Kon supporter. I love Kon to bits. Kon actually does appear this episode. Very, very happy that she makes an appearance. Still really unhappy because she's still technically homeless. Let's fix that little bit about her, okay? Every time I see Kon in that tree, I feel awful. We see her braving her dislike for the Tanuki this episode. She's able to kind of get over it and actually go to Inugami's house to find Kabane because she wants to fight him, where it turns into the Battle of the Waifu. So the next half of the episode, where we're introduced to our next case in Harajuku, it's also a bit of a battle of waifus and understanding the idea of a different type of love. So our next case is actually pretty gruesome, but the way it's wrapped up feels a little bit too light-hearted. But it's a literal face-off. It's literally people are having parts of their face yanked off. The fact that this kimono is body parts. There's women out there, presumably they haven't come from the same woman. There's a woman out there who's missing an eye. There's a woman out there who's missing her own mouth. It's quite horrific if you start to think about it. Where Kabane and his waifu army are actually the ones to take on this job. It also allows us to get to know our new character, Aya. And this is where we're going to quickly talk about the social media. A few days ago, I actually noticed there was one of those anime charts. People do the anime charts for everything nowadays. And it was the top couples of the week, like the top weekly couples in airing anime. And I did see Kabane and Kon on there. And up until this point, I'd never really considered the relationship between them as anything more. Obviously, this episode's really trying to set up some base. It's trying to give us a bit of a foundation for when it does happen. But this was the episode that shook me up going, oh, it actually is actually a thing. Whether it's canon or not, I don't want to know. Don't spoil it. I didn't realise that it was as big as a thing as it really was. This episode is also a bad time for poor Kon as she starts to get really confused. Kon as well also missing her police powers. We know that's what Inuri can do. Kon tries to use it and she actually fails. So because she's such an easy character to read, I love her to pieces. You can see that she's really down. Her ears are flopping. She's really sad about not being able to actually show off and be useful in front of Aya because she sees Aya as a rival. This is probably her first crush. This definitely has to be Kon's first crush because we can see how confused she is. She doesn't understand how she's feeling, why she's feeling the way she does. She's irrational. She lashes out. She tries to attack Aya, and she ends up actually finding herself slap bang in front of today's kimono. And today's kimono is a katanashi. Sadly, there were no results when I checked around for folklore, any links to real life folklore. Couldn't find it. It's probably got a different name, or it's known by a different name probably. But it is a essential kimono made up of several facial parts, which is really horrific if you think about that. If that was a real thing and you saw it, that's just creepy. They don't actually use the koi joke. So up until now, we've had that joke with Kon, whenever someone says koi, she thinks of the koi carp in the pond. We don't actually get to use that joke, even though we have that lined up nicely because today's theme with the kimono is love. And this kimono essentially just wants a human to like her. So she's essentially jealous and attacking all these women, which still doesn't justify this case. The fact that it kind of wraps up so happily and there's people out there who haven't got mouths, haven't got eyes. It feels a little bit odd the way that this is kind of resolved. But this case does give us a chance to understand Kabane's current understanding of love, and I love it to pieces. He's always the one who says something and it actually kind of shows us at the same time where he stands and how he's developing, where he believes that love is actually giving and receiving. It's not all about taking. So her taking parts of a woman and becoming the number one, it's not right. That's not love, as he says. Finally, Kon actually ends up snapping. Her jealousy gets the better of her, where she attacks Aya. Kon's jealousy, which actually gets the kimono to attack Aya in the first place, so her own jealousy and how this kimono sees how sad she is and actually goes out to try and attack Aya because she probably feels the same way as Kon. She actually sympathises with Kon. When Kon attacks Aya, she ends up biting Kabane. Kabane ends up being hurt, which pushes Aya very close to Kabane, and poor Kon ends up running off. The star of today's case was indeed Aya, who actually fixes things quite easily, where she ends up giving the kimono a body, and the body, obviously she's now more human. She has her wish, she's not going to attack anybody. I feel sorry for those poor women who are missing body parts. But it solidifies her position as a new character, a side character who's definitely going to be helpful to have on our side. Definitely good to have in the story. Aya ends up kissing Kabane upon the cheek. It ends up being a probably even worse day for anybody who is a very solid Kon fan out there. Very bad day for you today. But it's also nice to see Shiki developing as a brother because he actually ends up being quite overprotective as they end up having another sibling squabble. Probably at the moment I think we all probably want to discuss is when Kabane ends up chasing after Kon. To be fair, she is homeless still. He knows where she is, so he does know the location. It's him showing concern. He is concerned about the way she's acting. She wasn't herself and has gone out to look for her. Please, can we find a home for Kon at some point? She lives in a tree. The moment with Kon in tears because she doesn't understand her feeling, because she can't understand how and why her chest feels the way it does. and that jealousy, the rage door's ire as well. It's a precious moment seeing her actually in tears, and it made me feel so bad because I love Con as a character. She's really grown on me. Love her to pieces. Definitely my favourite female character. But it definitely leads to one of probably the first Con Cabernet moments that makes me go, okay, yes, it's definitely a thing. And I'm probably going to see their position in the top anime couples of the week rising now after this episode. He actually ends up grabbing her cheek to check that she's okay because she's covered in scratches. The way it's done, so it's not overly mushy. It's quite nice that it's not overly sappy or anything, but it's played off really innocently because these are still children. They don't understand what is probably going on, the actual greater implications, but it's very nice because it does it lightly. It's setting up for the future. It's not actually pushing anything right now. It's setting up the base for us to go, okay, if this was to happen later down the line, yes, I can understand where it's come from. I can see where it's built up. We are seeing the beginnings of a possible relationship between those two later on down the line. We even get Con stating, I want to be your number one. Up until this point, Con as a character has always shown us that she tries to do her best. She's trying to do whatever it takes to be accepted. Whenever it came to trying to find a place next to Inuri, she'd do whatever it takes to be that good girl, have a place to live. And I still imagine that Con's backstory is quite harsh, that she was probably abandoned, had no one around her. And then when Inuri showed her kindness, obviously, that one person to her is her world. She would do anything regardless if it was the grey area or bad, and that's what we saw with her in the first meeting when it came to Con and Inuri. Simply just wants a place to belong. She wants to find somebody that she's accepted by, and this is kind of what we start to see with the desire to be beside Cabernet. With Cabernet, when they fight each other, she sees Cabernet as a way to get stronger. She sees those interactions as being able to be a better person herself. But to me, initially, it kind of felt like it came out of nowhere. So up until this point, there's been some interaction with the characters. If they had forced a kiss, I would have probably been very upset. But the fact that they didn't, many, many kudos there, because I like the fact that they just don't quite understand what is going on and what it actually means to be someone's number one. But I think that makes this moment even better. This moment is really, really nice. I like the way it's handled. I like the lighting as well, the fact that there's a light going on and it's kind of flickering. And it's in the park at night time. I like it. It's all really, really nice. But it's simply Cabernet again, learning about love, learning a different form of love because he doesn't understand it. And that is carrying this theme across. Season 1's theme is definitely the idea of love and family. We have another moment which follows our quiet, touching moments with Inugami and Shiki's mum, who has decided to visit the memorial for her late husband. But there's also that nice moment where Inugami promises that he would be there if she needs anybody in the future. Ends us with the waifu war continuing onwards. And Shiki finally also realises my earlier point that Cabernet would indeed be his brother if that his sister was to marry him. To settle the waifu war once and for all, Cabernet decides to choose who he believes that he loves the most, the person who actually he wants to be his number one, and that is Inugami. And I love it. It's hilarious. It's great. He is the person who probably was his first love, and I don't mean love in that romantic sense. Obviously there are different forms of love. He is the first person that he feels love towards. Inugami has shown him a starry sky, has given him a place, has given him a hope and taken him in, and we've seen how grateful he is that he gives Inugami a small gift of tissues. It's not a big gift, but it's still, he sees the idea of love as giving. You give to the people that you love, and obviously receiving is just a bonus of being in a relationship with someone. So I like this episode. This episode does a lot to show us Cabernet's growth, development, his understanding of the idea of love. Inugami may have won the waifu war for Nai, but he's also my favourite character when it comes to guy characters. I love him to pieces. He's my choice for husbando, so that's my choice there. I do hope that we get more development in this area at some point as well. It's been a really good episode. I really like the themes. I like how it's been handled. We are making quite a bit of progress when it comes to character development. The anime does really well in developing its characters. The cases, not so much. The cases tend to be quite throwaway. They kind of seem a bit sidelined at times. How are we going to end this season is going to be the big question now. We have got 3 more episodes left. How are we going to end season 1? What is going to happen in our next 3 episodes? And is it going to be hopefully a good ending? I really hate cliffhangers. Cliffhangers drive me up the wall. Especially if you don't know an anime is going to get a second season. It's the worst. Hopefully, maybe Kemono Jihen will get greenlit for a new season. I think there's a lot of material out there for it, so there's definitely at least enough for a second season if we get one. But really enjoying Kemono Jihen. I really hope you guys too are enjoying Kemono Jihen, taking care of yourselves, and I will see you guys again next week. Have a good day, guys. Bye bye.